Look at that. You remembered my
The
inhaler.
following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention.
It says we're live, but I do not see it.
You can't see it?
I'm seeing stars too. That's going to be a real fun show with that going on.
Let me see.
All right, I think I just shared it.
It's working.
It is, yeah.
Been something.
Now, are you the one that does it share automatically to the Valley Patriot Bash page, or do you do that manually?
Manually.
Okay, so I just saw it pop up.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. All right, well, let me just make sure it's up. I'm going to think. I'm not even going to go through the whole song today because we got a guest on the line and we're late.
Yeah.
Boy, do we have a lot to get to today, too. Today's one of those days that I wish I had 2 hours to do a show. There are days I come in and I have nothing. I think I'm making it up as I'm going along. Today is not one of those days. All right, it's up, so it looks like it's on the page.
Yeah.
We're live. All right. I'm going to thank the sponsors while the show is playing. That's going to actually save us some time. Actually, you can pod Mel down today.
Yeah?
Yep. All right, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan here at the Paying Attention Podcast, high atop the Golden Seal Apothecary on Main Street, North Andover, right across the street from the plush, luxurious Valley Patriot offices, which no one is allowed to ever come see. I want to thank our sponsors at the beginning. We've got somebody joining us via Zoom, which I really always hate, but I'm actually really glad to have this guy today because there's a lot going on in Drake, and his name is Brian Janess, and I just want to thank our sponsors before we get to him. Century 21 McLennan Real Estate, the Zany Pescherino. What is it? Say
Pesci?
it. Pesh? Is it Pesh?
Isn't it Pesci?
I thought it was Pesci, but maybe it's not.
I don't know.
The law office in Methuen, the Morrison & Son Construction, EIS, Investigation and Gun Training, Tomo and Shaken Seafood. We were at Tomo Tuesday night.
Oh, Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night we were at Tomo.
I was a little upset.
I'm sorry. They changed the Godzilla. Oh my God, it is so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have no idea why they changed it. I don't like change. And when they put it down, I was mad. I went, you guys change this, and they're like, yeah, we're really sorry. If you don't like it, we won't charge you. It was so friggin' good. I ordered more. JG's Ice Cream, Clear Path for Veterans New England, AFC Urgent Care, Zaka is due to come back in the show. Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, I think David Consoli is going to be coming back hopefully shortly. Enterprise Bank, which is now Rockland Trust, God help us all. Prime Insurance, the Doug Mercurio Law Office, who is back.
Yay!
He is back. It took quite the negotiations, but he is back.
I will give him a hug just for that.
W3ON website design, quality catering.
Ooh, so
If this
many
list,
ads.
I don't know if this list gets any longer. Terramar Mexican Grill, 4-star lighting, and a free shout-out to both Stadium Chiropractic and my good friend Paul Lambert at Lambert and Randone Law Office. And they do, like, family law stuff, wills, trusts, all that kind of stuff. We have with us via Zoom one of my favorite columnists, and I'm not just saying that because he's here. I say it all the time to a lot of people. We don't always agree, but most of the time we do. Brian Janess, who wrote, I think, one of the funniest columns, one of the best columns that we've run in the last couple of years, last month, and we'll let him talk about that. Brian, how are you doing? Can people see you? Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, there he is. Okay, good. Very good. All right, and I apologize for being late. I know we're screwing up your lunch, and you're supposed to be at work. Thank you very much, because I'm a big fan of both. Actually, you really can't be. I always tell people you really can't be for the First Amendment and not be for all the others, right? Like there are people out there who don't really care about gun rights, but they really care about free speech, and then vice versa. You have a lot of gun nuts out there that don't care if they take our free speech away because they got guns, right? And I always say they really have to go together. The First Amendment is the most important, and the Second Amendment's there just in case the First Amendment doesn't work out. Right. All right. I'm screwed up. Wow. Oh well, I apologize for that. Usually it's topic based, right? So if I read a column that hits a topic that I think is really big, because you're covering you're covering Drake it, right? And I grew up as a Lawrence kid. Then I moved to North Andover. I became a North Andover guy. But most of what I was covering was Methuen. And so people kind of look at things from a purely territorial way. So people in Methuen don't give a shit about Drake it. And people in North Andover don't give a crap about Lawrence, although they're paying for it, right? But then every once in a while, a story breaches the locality. It breaches the parochialness of it. And when it comes to like guns, free speech, cancel culture, sex ed, that kind of stuff, it always kind of breaches. And so I always, when it's topic based, when I see a topic like that jumps off the page at me, when you first submitted, I think it was like 3 a.m. when I was actually laying it into the paper. And normally I don't read your column until after the paper comes out. Like I have this ritual that I do that there are certain columns that I like to read when the paper's in my hand. When I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, I got the paper and I start reading it. And I saw that it was about she a community development director, acting town manager, and I saw the Second Amendment. So I saw the thing about the guns, and I went, "Oh, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this now. I'm not waiting until tomorrow." So I read through it, and I went, "Wow, you know what? That's probably the best column that we've published in the last couple of months. I mean, the last couple of years. I got to get him on the show to talk about that." So why don't you tell people what happened? Wait, hold on. What's the matter?
They said there's no voice for him. Hold on.
Do we have to start the show over? Is that what's going on?
No, hold on.
Well, if they couldn't hear anything that he said, we should just start over. This is crazy.
Of course. So people are saying there's no voice from Brian. I can't hear him.
Okay. Let's see here.
1 second, guys. We're sorry. There's some technical difficulties.
I'm going to cut her pay in half. I don't pay her, so. Right, I'm going to double your pay and cut hers in half. Oh my God, she's crying. Don't, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
It's not my fault.
It happens. It happens. And it was good because we tested it with Bill in the other room before you zoomed in. So I want to say while we're killing time here, while they're taking care of technical difficulties, I want to congratulate Patrick Delaney, Captain Patrick Delaney of the Lawrence Fire Department, who was named chief last night with a unanimous vote. I was a little surprised that the city council unanimously voted for him, although it's kind of hard when the guy's standing in front of you, right, no matter who it is, to vote no against him. But I've seen it happen. I've seen city councilors sit there and say, well, I'm not really voting against you, but I didn't like the process. And, there's always a coward's way out, but nobody took it last night, which was good. I think Pat does a great job. I think he'd be a great chief. He's, people have personality types, and if you're going to hire a leader, you want someone with a quarterback mentality, somebody with a quarterback personality, someone very low key, a low excitability level. You don't want someone that's like always upset, that's always flailing around. And Patrick is a very low key guy, and that's exactly what they need in Lawrence, because Lawrence is so fraught with bullshit and politics and backbiting and dishonesty, and it's a cesspool. Lawrence political scene is a cesspool, and so to take a guy that's very low key and put him in that position, I think was a very good thing for the mayor to do. And I'm glad that he did, and I'm glad that the city council, even though 4 or 5 members really hate the mayor and usually vote against whatever the mayor wants, they actually unanimously gave him that last night. So that's my fill-in. I'm done after that, though. Bill, how we doing over there? He's working on it. Well, yeah.
Can you hear him?
I saw that. I wanted to cover that because it was a great crossover story. Can you hear him, Bill? Because I can hear him.
Hello. Have him talk again.
Say something again, Brian.
Yeah, no, he's coming loud and
But can people at home hear him? I guess that's what's the real. Can people at home hear him now? This is a nightmare. We're going to have him come back because it just isn't working.
Yeah, it's connected to Rollcast.
Oh, it would be even better if you could come in, but I don't want to kill your work schedule either. What do you do for work? Oh, no kidding. You're a copywriter? Oh, so this is perfect. We're perfect friends. Like we're BFFs at this point, right? We're soulmates. So it looks like it's not working, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get it working, Bri. Why don't we try and get you? Let me make sure I don't have anything next week, and we'll just try it again next week. Okay, I have nothing next week. So do you want to try and come in next week for like 12:30, 1 o'clock? Does that work? Okay. All right. I apologize, Bri. I don't know. This is our first time ever we're in a new studio, so this is our first time doing a Zoom call in the new studio, and it's new equipment and new producer and everything else. So I apologize for screwing up your day. All right, and tell the wife that I said hello. All right. All right, great. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. So, little technical difficulties, but listen, I've been doing radio for 35 years, and I can roll with anything. So I'm perfectly okay with rather than just starting the show over. Let's just move on and let's just talk about something else. What's going on? Huh? What?
Can you not blame me?
No. Why would I blame you? It's a technical issue. Wait, but the thing is, if I blame intern girl, then she gets like really humble and she gets like really weepy, and then she gets clingy, and I like that. Right, because then she works harder and she tries to please me more, and I like it when women try to please me. I'm Gen X. It's just kind of the way that I was built. All right, so we lost Brian. So Brian wrote a great column. I posted it. It's on my Facebook page. It's about the assistant town manager. Her name is Allison McGuinn. She stood up at a Board of Selectmen meeting to rant and rave about. So I've got a screen here. If maybe you could just kill that. Thank you. And I lost my ad on the left hand. This is an abortion. All right, kids, good night. I'm going back to bed. I'm done. I'm just done. All right, it's back. Brian Jadess is our Drake columnist. He wrote a great column last month about one of the city workers. She's like the assistant town manager who got up at a Board of Selectmen meeting and railed against an ordinance that would allow people to carry a gun in town hall, because she's one of these crazy liberal, gun-grabbing, unrealistic people who just don't know anything about guns. And it's always amazing to me that the people who know the least about something are always the ones that want to regulate it. Like, she knows nothing about weapons. She knows nothing about guns, the reason for guns, how to use a gun, what guns are for, how to load a gun, how to tell if a gun is loaded. She knows nothing about guns, just like the Massachusetts legislature knows nothing about guns. And yet they want to restrict guns. And I would say that those two things go together. They want to restrict guns because they don't understand them. They don't get it. They don't understand it. And I always say that once you've gone into a gun range with a friend and you've shot a gun and you've learned gun safety, your entire worldview about guns will change. Because what you think about guns is what you see in the movies, what you see on TV, and that's all propaganda. It's done on purpose. When you're watching Law and Order, when you're watching the news, it doesn't matter what form of media you're watching, movies, TV shows, news, whatever it is, the messages are the same. The political messages are the same. Guns are bad. Guns go off by themselves. They're very dangerous. You hear these bogus statistics that guns kill more people in America than anything else. Totally bullshit. It's not true. So she got up at town meeting and she just went crazy about the idea of allowing people to show up at town hall to do business wearing a gun. And, you know, not for anything. I'm a gun holder. I'm a concealed carry. And if I was at town hall in Drake and someone came in with a gun to rob them, we've had mass shootings in town halls all over America, You want someone there who has a gun, that's trained, that knows how to use it, that knows how to defend themselves and other people, because the cops are still 10 minutes away, and you still have to pick up the phone. And what's the first thing that a gunman does when they see somebody picking up a phone to call the police? They shoot you first.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of, this whole anti-gun idea of, you don't need a gun, call the police, it's always coming from liberal Democrats, almost always, 99% of the time coming from liberal Democrats. And you know that they're just being dishonest about their entire view of guns. And they're being dishonest when they're giving you the reasons why you don't need a gun. Think about this, and we're going to talk about some local stuff in a second. So think about this. The idea is you don't need a gun. Here's what they tell you. Here's what the Democrats and the media, CNN, Law and Order, Hollywood, they all tell you don't need a gun because if you have a problem, you should call the police. Only the police should have guns. Am I right about this, intern girl?
Yeah.
Only cops should have guns. But by the way, the Democrats who are saying this are the very same people who say that cops in America are gunning down black men for fun. That cops are jackbooted thugs. They're all a bunch of racists, right? That they're there to abuse people's rights. We have to reform the police. We have to defund the police. The police are the bad guys. So think about putting those two together. And this is why I say Democrats, everything that a liberal Democrat says they believe is in direct contradiction to everything else they say they believe. They take their beliefs like they're at a cafeteria and it's a buffet. And they say a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And they never put it all together and say, what if we did all of it? What if we achieved all of our goals? On the one hand, the cops are racists, and we have to put checks upon them and defund them and have police reform because they're out there violating our rights and gunning down black men for fun. And they're all white supremacists and racists. On the other hand, you shouldn't be able to have a gun if you're a black man to defend yourself from the white racist cops. This is the message the Democrat Party is pushing. Now, both of those are wrong, by the way. But this is what they're pushing. So when they're giving you excuses as to why you shouldn't have a gun, they're lying. They're not lying that they don't think you should have a gun. They don't think you should have a gun. But it's not because the police are the only ones that should have guns, because they hate the police too. They want to disarm you. They don't like guns because they don't understand guns. They don't want anyone to have a gun. And there's even been moves in Cambridge and in other communities to take guns away from cops. I'm not kidding. Actually, as part of the gun bill that was passed in Massachusetts, the original draft had a provision that off-duty cops were not allowed to carry guns, that their gun permit as a cop would only cover them on duty. Now, I can show you tons of statistics of how many lives have been saved by off-duty cops that happened to be in a bodega when a robbery was going on, that happened to be on the street when a shooting was going down. I can give you tons and tons and tons of data that's indisputable. Came from the Bureau of Justice Statistics under Barack Obama, okay? No right-wing gun kook, right? And yet they tell you that we shouldn't have guns, and the excuses that they give you are ridiculous. Let me give you one more thing on guns, because since I didn't plan on doing a gun rant today, but there's a couple things going on in the Supreme Court that are just absolutely monumental. What's the other thing that the Democrats tell us on a daily basis? Put on CNN today, and within 20 minutes you're going to hear Trump is a fascist, Trump is a Nazi. Trump is Hitler, right?
He's a dictator.
He's a dictator. I want you to think about this. I'm going to try and slow down because I want you to absorb this. I want you to let it sink in. Trump is a dictator. Trump is a fascist. Trump is a Nazi. Let's pretend that's true. Just for fun, let's pretend that's true. Why would they turn around and then say, turn in all your guns to the Nazi? Because that didn't work, because that worked out so well in Germany, right?
Oh, sure.
That worked out really well in Cambodia. That worked out incredibly well in the Soviet Union, right? In Russia with Stalin. That worked out so well. They confiscated the guns. Then what happened next? Anybody want to fill in the blank on what happened next when Hitler took all the guns? 30 million Jews ended up in ovens. That's what happened. So they're telling you that the leader of our country is Hitler. At the same time, they're telling you to give Hitler all of your guns. That's how you know they're full of shit. And it's because they don't want to admit that they feel inadequate and they feel uncomfortable around guns. And they feel uncomfortable around guns because they don't understand guns. Massachusetts has a law. California has a law. I think Illinois has a law that restricts the number of bullets you can have in a magazine that you put into a gun. The magazine is you load the bullets into
Yes.
I would take out my gun and show you, but I don't know if legally I can do that in this building.
I don't think so.
Right? I might be able to, but I don't want to take a
No,
chance.
but on like
'cause-
Facebook, I don't know if that's allowed. I mean, I don't know.
See,
We gotta look into it.
I wouldn't mind going into Facebook jail. I just don't want to go to real jail because I don't know what the laws are.
Well,
like,
can you just at least show the magazine, maybe?
I might be able to do that.
Yeah, just
okay,
check
maybe
that
maybe
out.
I can do that.
Oh boy.
So,
Ooh,
so this is the magazine that I just took out of my gun. Right, this carries 8 bullets. Okay, I have one that carries 9 bullets, and I have one that carries 7. All right, I bought them all when I bought my gun. I have a Springfield 9mm. These are hollow point bullets. Okay, in Massachusetts, this is legal. I have another one that's a 9. Maybe zoom in on that. Right, so I have another one. This is what goes into the gun, and then this feeds each bullet. So I could pull the trigger 8 times, and I could shoot this bullet. I could shoot this gun 8 times when I have this magazine in my gun. Right, so I have one that's a 9. In Massachusetts, you could only have a 9-round magazine in your gun. You could have 9 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber. So if you put it in, you rack the slide,
you got it ready.
You load one into the chamber, then you take it out, you put one more in, so now you've got 9 bullets in your. You can have a 9 chamber, you can have a 9 magazine, rack one, put another one into the magazine, put it back in, and you can have 10 in your gun. If you have 11, you go to jail.
Really?
Yeah. So Massachusetts has a 10-round limit on how many rounds you can have in your gun. Now,
Does it matter the type of gun or
Nope.
just any gun?
doesn't matter what kind of gun. In fact, shotguns, I think it's 5. So shotguns, you can have 5 rounds. Semi-automatics, you can have.
So Tommy guns are no longer.
Yeah, no, there's no such thing. Well, so I have a high capacity. I have a gun license that's high capacity. If I wanted to buy a machine gun, you can still buy machine guns in any state, but they have to be made before 1990, and they have to be registered with the federal government.
Okay.
There's very heavy restrictions on it. Quite frankly, I don't see any need for anybody to have a machine gun, at least in Massachusetts. Now, if you live in Kansas, and the nearest cop is 40 minutes away, that makes sense, maybe, right? But otherwise, an AR-15. You know what an AR-15 is? It's just a pistol with a long nose.
Really?
So there's no
So you
difference.
have to keep reloading every time you use it, or
no,
it's not
no.
semi-automatic?
So with what I just showed you, with the magazine that I just showed you, take it out again. So with the magazine that I just showed you, you put this into the gun, and then there's eight rounds in here, and there's 1 in the chamber. That's 9. So I have 9 rounds in my gun. Someone comes in here and they start shooting. I could shoot 9 times. I have to pull the trigger once for each bullet to come out. That's why it's semi-automatic, not automatic, right? And then when I run out, I've got to change. I have to put another magazine in. I have to take my backup magazine that I have that I think carries. I think it carries.
You have a backup magazine?
You have to have a backup magazine, and here's why. Here's my backup magazine. It's much smaller. This carries 7 bullets. Okay. Now, why do I need to carry this and this? The reason I have to carry this and this one goes in the gun, and this one I keep in my pocket or concealed somewhere on my person. Why do I have to carry both? I have to carry both because criminals know that the law says you can only have 10 bullets in your gun. Criminals don't follow laws. Criminals go to other states, buy 15-round mags, load their 15-round mags, and then use that when they go rob a store because the store owner can only have a gun with 10 rounds in it.
Oh.
Okay? So
I always thought it was 6 because in movies they always make it seem like it's 6, unless it's like a revolver, right?
I think 6 could be the shotguns.
Oh,
Shotgun could be 6. I know in Mass it's 5. So I looked up I knew we were going to talk a little bit about this today, so I did some research on it yesterday. So here's why this is very dangerous and gets people killed, because where did they come up with the idea of 10 rounds? Like, where did that come from? Did they do research? Did Harvard go out and do, hey, if you only have 10 rounds, it's safer for people? No, they just made it up.
Really?
And they admit that they made it up. They admit that they make it up when they make these laws. If you watch when the House is debating a bill, especially a gun bill, we had Francisco Polino here 4 weeks ago. We had this very conversation. Now, before I say what I'm about to say, I want you to know I love Francisco Polino. He's a great guy. We just don't agree on this issue. So I'm going to criticize him on the issue, but I'm not criticizing him, okay? Please don't pick up the phone and call him. I don't want to get a call from him after the show saying to me, calling me, going, Tom, I heard you were bad-mouthing
Just say what
me
you have to say
on the show.
Who
Well,
cares
but because I
what
don't
you
want
say?
'cause I don't want to deal with the bullshit afterwards. But he was on this show, and I should have brought the clip, but I'll bring it next week, and he made a comment that made me horrified. And you could probably tell from my reaction that I was horrified when he said it. But because I like him, because he's my friend, and I wanted him to get his word out, that's why he was here, to get his message out and talk about his opinion. I'm here every week, so I have plenty of time to do that afterwards. And here's what he said. He said, if I had my way, all semi-automatic weapons would be illegal. I would ban all semi-automatic weapons.
I think he's speaking like as a father. All the schools.
Well, you could speak about it any way you want, but you're restricting my right to protect my family. You're restricting my right to protect myself. And if you're going to say that I can't have a semi-automatic weapon, that means that people can only own revolvers. That means you can only have 5 or 6 rounds in a chamber. You think criminals are going to say, oh, you know what? We're going to make it fair. We're going to make it fair. We're going to go and get revolvers too. No, they're going to walk in with an AR-15.
Of course.
Now, here's the other thing with the AR-15s. An AR-15 is just a pistol with a long nose. That's all it is. You can actually take your pistol and turn it into an AR-15. There are kits that you can buy where you take your gun, and someday I'm going to bring in a video. I'm going to show you guys because people look at the AR-15 and they go, "Oh my God, it's so scary! Look how scary it looks." You're reacting emotionally to how it looks because you've watched Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and you've watched all these violent movies that they show you in Hollywood where the guy gets the AR-15 and goes up and he shoots up a mall. So it looks scary because you've been conditioned to be afraid when you see it. By the media, CNN, the movies, Law and Order, all these other shows that you watch, they all do the same thing. They pepper in their propaganda, the anti-gun propaganda, in everything that they do. But an AR-15 is literally no different than the 9mm handgun that I carry. You have to pull the trigger once for every bullet that comes out. Now, people who don't know anything about guns think they use this word assault weapon. Can you define what an assault weapon is? They can't. There is no definition of an assault weapon. Assault weapon's a made-up word. All weapons are assault weapons. This is an assault bottle. If I take it and I hit you over the head with it, and I give you a concussion, my phone is an assault phone, right? So an AR-15 is just a handgun with a long nose. You pull the trigger once every single time you want a bullet to come out. It's not a machine gun. A machine gun, you pull the trigger once and you hold it, and multiple bullets come out. You can shoot 30, 40 rounds in a minute. You can maybe shoot 10 or 15 rounds with a semi-automatic in a minute. But
so basically, they want to get rid of that option here,
yeah,
Massachusetts.
what Francisco Polino wants, what he said on the show, is that if he had his way, he would ban all semi-automatic weapons.
What is it that they say in Texas about people that everyone is really friendly? Why?
Yeah, because they have to be.
Because they have to
everyone
be.
carries a gun.
Everyone carries a gun.
That's right. Now, I'll tell you, when I was in, I'll diverse real quick, and then we're going to get into some local topics. So when I was in Alabama, I lived in Alabama in a place called Opelika, Alabama for about a year. And in Opelika, Alabama, I lived in a place called Stonehenge Mobile Home Park. It was about 3 miles from Auburn University. And so we'd come out of the mobile home park, take a right. We'd drive for about 15 minutes, and then we'd cross over the line into Auburn. We'd be at Auburn University. In between, there was literally nothing. The police department was easily 15 minutes away. So if somebody came into the mobile home park and broke in, they started beating their wife, they were drunk driving, whatever, someone calls the cops. Cops are 10 minutes away. You don't have the option of waiting for the cops. You're not in a inner city like Boston, Lawrence, Lowell, Lynn, Haverhill, right? So there's a bar, and a friend of mine says, let's go to the bar. There's one bar in Opelika, and I can't remember the name of it. So,
bar?
Yeah, so we're driving. It's just, we're on a country road. It's dark. There's nothing. Every once in a while you see a cow, and that's it. And then you drive for like 10 more minutes, and there's nothing. There's no street lights. It's dark. It's scary. It's like a horror movie. And then all of a sudden, you pull, and there's a clearing, and there's a little light, and as you get closer, it's a bar in the middle of a really huge parking lot. And that's all it is. There's nothing else around. There's nothing next door. There's no liquor stores. There's no 7-Elevens. It's just a bar. And when you go into this bar that there's nothing for like 15, 20 miles around you. So I go in. I'm hanging out with my friend Spud, who was nice enough to let me stay with him down there at the time. And I met this beautiful little redhead. who actually lived in the mobile home park that we were staying at. And I went over and I'm like, don't you live in the mobile home park? Don't you live at Stonehenge? She's like, yeah, we chatted. I bought her a drink. Everything was going great. You know how I am with redheads.
Oh, my God. That's your weakness.
I was good for the night.
Kryptonite.
It is my kryptonite. Totally. I'm ready to give her the nuclear codes. I'm ready to sell out troop movements, right? And
Sign off your newspaper to her.
And I said to her, after last call, I said, why don't you let me walk you to your car? And she had this really, and I'll never forget this, even though it was like 25 years ago. I know she had this really cute Southern accent. She said, nah, Dugan, I'm okay. And I said, well, yeah, but what if something happens? And she opened up her pocketbook. She had 3 guns in her pocketbook. And I was stunned. She was all of maybe 5'8". She had a knockout body, but she was like this little 5'8" girl who was a little redhead.
Little? 5'8" is actually pretty tall for a woman.
Well, okay, so maybe I'm getting it wrong because my
Maybe
numbers
4'11".
suck. She was much shorter than me. Let's just put it that way without putting a number to it. She was much shorter than me. She was certainly someone that a rapist or a burglar or a criminal. If you looked at the women that were in this bar, you'd probably pick her first because she looked the weakest and the smallest. And who would have known she had 3 guns in her?
You probably fell in love. Did you propose?
I right on the spot. Absolutely, I did. But I was stunned, and I said to her, because I'd never owned a gun up at that point. I didn't own a gun until 10 years ago. And I was like, oh, my God, why do you have 3 guns? She said, because, Dugan, down here, you ever notice nobody ever gets raped? And women don't get raped in Opelika. Women don't get raped in Alabama. You know why? Because we're all carrying. We grew up with daddies who bring us to the gun range and teach us gun safety when we're kids and teach us never, ever to go anywhere without our guns because we need it for self-protection. And I know you come up from up north. You're up from Boston. And women in Boston get raped an awful lot, don't they, up in Boston? But down here in Mobile, Alabama, and in Opelika and Auburn, you never see a story in the newspaper about a woman getting raped. You know why? Because we all carry. Never forgot that. Never forgot that. And if you had the liberal Democrats in Massachusetts running Alabama, you watch the burglaries jump, watch the rapes jump, watch the personal assaults jump. But down there, like you said in Texas,
the illegal immigrant spending jump.
Everybody has to behave themselves in Auburn, Alabama, and Mobile, Alabama, because everybody knows everybody else is carrying a gun, right? So I bring this up for one reason. There is a Supreme Court case coming up. Now, we just had the Bruin decision, which was the most wonderful Supreme Court decision when it comes to guns ever. Said you have a personal right. No more of this. You have to be part of a militia. All these lies the gun grabbers tell you about. And Bruin did a lot more, and I don't want to hold the show up by going into the details. But part of Bruin, there was a provision that went back down to the states, or went back to California, I believe, and it's called, what is it called? It's called Duncan versus, if you look up Duncan, it'll come up.
Starbucks? Duncan versus Starbucks?
It was Duncan versus, I can't remember what the other one was, and I should have had it ready. So basically the law challenged it challenged the law in California that limited how many bullets you could have in a magazine. That's why I started off showing you my magazine and explaining what it meant. I want people who don't understand guns to understand why this is important. So it looks as though, California had a law that you can only have so many guns, so many rounds in a magazine. Talking too fast, and that's when I make my mistakes.
But are you against having a limit on the magazine? You are against. Okay, so you should
because criminals don't follow laws, and criminals know that good people do follow laws, and that puts us all at risk. So California had this law. Massachusetts has this law. The California is the one that's being challenged, and the Supreme Court said this week. Now there's a process to get to the Supreme Court. You have to sue the state, then you lose, and you go to appeals court, maybe you win, then it goes to the federal appeals court, maybe you lose, and then there's a process to get it there.
How many Supreme Court cases have you won?
I've won 2 state Supreme Court cases.
2?
In two different states.
Wow. Has the Eagle Tribune said anything about that?
Not a fucking word.
Exactly.
No,
all right, continue. I just wanted to throw something.
Thank you. She's trying to make up for earlier. I love that.
I am.
This is what I mean, by the way.
I am. I feel guilty.
No, I don't feel it. It wasn't your fault.
I know
it was technology.
My fault.
So the Duncan case, the Supreme Court said this week that, you know how city councils can kind of waive the rules in an emergency? They basically said we're going to do it en banc. We're going to waive the rules so that it's not going to take 5 years to come back to us. We want to hear it like in short order. So in the next 6 months, the Supreme Court, and here's my prediction, and I know I'm right, it's going to be like a 5-2 decision, or a 6-2 decision, you'll always have one or two that'll either not vote or will vote with the other side. It's going to be a majority decision, though, to overturn the Duncan case and make it illegal for states to restrict how many rounds you can have in a magazine. And it has to happen. It has to happen if we're going to be able to defend ourselves. It has to happen if we're going to have gun rights in this country. Because, I'm so sick of hearing, why do you need an AR-15? Why do you need one? Well, have you seen the riots that go on in this country, like on a regular basis? You see people doing home invasions where 15 people show up at a house and kick the door in. How about those people?
Flash mobs.
How about the people in Colorado where the illegal aliens, like forget that they were illegal, but they were criminals, that a bunch of criminals, 20 people showed up at this apartment building, kicked in all the doors, and were beating and shooting and raping the people and stealing all their stuff. Why do I need an AR-15? Why do I need more than 9 rounds in the chamber? Because when someone's committing a crime, they very rarely commit it alone. And a lot of times they have accomplices. And, the mentality that you only need 10 rounds or that you only need 9 rounds assumes that you're dealing with one perpetrator. But what if you're not? What about when we had the hurricane in New Orleans and law enforcement was nowhere to be found? They weren't 10 minutes away. They were 10 days away. There was no communication. There was no phone. There was no cell phones. There was nothing. And, the people who had guns, the people who had AR-15s, the people who had M1s, those are the people who survived when something like that happened.
Or even 9/11. Outside of 9/11, what was happening, there was a lot of crime
That's
being
right.
committed.
And during the Rodney King riots, which I am old enough to remember, and the videos are still on YouTube. I looked them up the other day. When the riots were happening, they were burning down, they were killing people, they were murdering people, they were raping people because it was total lawlessness. You know who survived? The Korean jewelry stores survived. The Korean restaurants survived because they all had AR-15s. They went up on their roofs and they started shooting down at the crowds that were coming at them. And the crowds went, you know what? We're going this way. And they survived. They didn't get killed and their businesses didn't get burned down. And the police were not 10 minutes away. The police were 10 days away. So we have a Supreme Court case that's going to be coming up. It's called Duncan v. and I'll look for it while I'm chattering about other stuff.
I've always questioned I've always questioned, how is it that two people, bad people, right, who commit crimes, how the heck do they find each other?
Yeah,
Is
they always
there
do,
like
though.
a
They always seem
Craigslist
to.
ad, or do they put it on a Facebook group? Hey, I'm a criminal. I'm looking for some. I really want to know how two people, horrible people, can get together and do awful things.
Well, I don't have the answer for that, but having grown up in Lawrence, which has a lot of crime, and knowing a lot of people who have turned out to be criminals, I think part of it is the environment that you're in. So if you're a bad person, you're in bad environments. You're hanging out in alleys, you're hanging out with drug dealers, you're hanging out outside.
Yeah, but there's people who do serial killers who have their wife who helps them, and it's how the heck did you guys find each other? How many serial killers out of, what's the percentage of serial killers? That's crazy. I don't know.
The case is called Duncan versus Bonta.
Bonta.
Duncan versus Bonta. This actually 3 days ago, this came out that the Supreme Court is going to take an emergency measure probably by April of next year. So we're in August? Beginning of August? So by April of next year, you should have a ruling on that.
8 months.
And that's going to change every state law in the country if it wins, and I think that it will. Because even some of the left-leaning justices on the Supreme Court have indicated that it's all if they could show that there was a study and that they've over multiple decades looked at the data and said, by restricting the rounds to 10, fewer innocent people die, then they might actually have a case to say why they want to do this. But that didn't happen. In Massachusetts, it's 10. In California, I think it's 8. In Illinois, I think it's 11. So it's different in every state because they're just making it up as they go along. It's not based on any science.
On anything.
The party that cries about science all the time never uses science.
Or transparency and freedom. They're taking our freedom away. They're taking things away from us. And it's the Second Amendment. It's the Second Amendment. We have the right to carry.
Isn't it interesting how we treat the Second Amendment differently? When liberals and Democrats thought that abortion was a constitutional right, And for 20 years we considered it, or 50 years we considered it a constitutional right until the court got it right and we get the Dobbs decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. But when the liberal Democrats thought that abortion was a constitutional right, think about the arguments that they were saying. They were saying,
it's a woman's body.
Well, but they were also saying, if you're poor and you can't afford an abortion because it's a right, we should pay for it. Can you imagine applying that to the Second Amendment? You have a Second Amendment right to carry a gun, but if you can't carry one, the government's going to buy you one. Like, just imagine if we treated the Second Amendment the way we treat all the other amendments, that it's absolute, right? So you have a free speech right. You can't restrict my right of free speech in a park. You can't say, hey, you're in a school, you don't have the right to free speech. But you can say you're in a park or you're in a school and you can't carry a gun. Isn't that interesting? How we treat the different amendments differently based on what we like, based on our political whims, based on the culture
Those
of the time.
it. And it's part of the Bill of Rights. It's within the Bill of Rights, and it's part of being an American and being in America.
And that's why we need a Supreme Court that's going to go by the original intent of the founders. You know, when you make a law that says you can't rape, it doesn't mean, well, you can't rape unless you feel like it. It doesn't mean like, you know, we can reinterpret that 10 years later to mean that you can rape, right? Well, there's certain exceptions that if you want to rape, that maybe you can be able to rape. My point, I guess, is that when you make a law, the law says what it means and means what it says. And if the law says you can't park here, the law says you can't park here. If the law says that if you commit rape, you go to jail, if you commit rape, you go to jail. But we don't treat the Constitution that way. There's this whole bogus school of thought out there that the Constitution doesn't really mean what it says. There's another argument that I get a lot, too, about the Constitution from the left wing, that they're just so misinformed. And I feel so bad for these people. I get mad sometimes, and I shouldn't. But, you know, they say, well, but technology has changed. We didn't have the internet 200 years ago when they did the Constitution. You know, you're using an old document.
But it's the Constitution is the base for everything else, and that's why we have amendments, because amendments add to it, or you know what I mean. And then we also have the executive orders from our president. Like, there are things that protect us. I think, you know, our founding fathers were like incredible and
they were geniuses.
They were geniuses.
Beyond geniuses.
What was that meeting called when they all like met?
The Constitutional Convention.
Okay, yeah, that they just thought out so far out where, you know, it could protect us. So.
And if you really want to understand the Constitution, I didn't plan on doing a constitutional show today, but if you really want to understand the Constitution and you want to cut through all the political bullshit that you see on CNN, that you hear in your college classes, that you hear on cable news, on C-SPAN, at your local diner, if you want to cut through all the bullshit, read the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers, Jefferson and Madison and these guys that wrote the Constitution wrote books about why they were writing the Constitution. So they talked about why did we make the Second Amendment, and what was our purpose for this, and what were we thinking, and what made us think about that? Why did they make the First Amendment the First Amendment? They made it the First Amendment because if you don't have free speech, none of the rest of the amendments matter. And why did we make the Second Amendment? Because if the First Amendment doesn't work out, if the government tries to take away your speech illegally, you can defend yourself against your government if they try to take away your rights. And, you know,
I thought the Second Amendment was made for something, because of something else.
Well, no, it was made because at the time we had British rule, right, here in there was colonies here in the United States. And the king was trying to take everybody's guns away because he didn't want them to fight against his troops and become what we did, Revolutionary War. Yeah. He didn't want a revolution. He didn't want them becoming their own country. He wanted to keep taxing us to death. And because we had guns, and by the way, we won the revolution, any historian will tell you, and I remember this from high school and college, any historian will tell you that we won the revolution because there were rules of war. So the British would show up, and they would line up, and the first line would be guys on their knees like this, and then there would be guys standing up behind them, and there would be rows of guys behind them, but they would be diagonally so that they could shoot, and they could all shoot at once. So they would come to the colonies, and they would say, "That's it. We're going to teach these colonists," and they'd all start to line up. And as they were lining up, we had guys in trees behind cows. We weren't lining up. We weren't following rules. We had our own guns. We were going to do what we wanted to do, and that's how we repelled the British, because we had our own guns. and we didn't follow rules of war. And look how far we've come since then. We listen to these stupid concepts about Gaza and the rules of war. Newsflash. There are no rules of war. That's why it's a war.
It's a war.
And if you're following rules and the other side's not following rules, you don't win. Sorry. It's like you get into a street fight, right? Someone comes over to you and they physically attack you. Are you going to go, you know what, I'm not going to kick him in the balls because that's kind of below the belt? No, you're going to do everything you can to survive. And you should do everything you can to survive because your family deserves to have you come home that day. So you don't say, I'm not going to gouge his eyes out with my thumbs because, the guy will be blind the rest of his life. You have to survive. You do everything you can to get out of it. And war is the same way. And,
the rules of war.
It's crazy when I hear these people talk about Gaza. Oh, Israel's committing war crimes. That's what they're saying.
I actually received some messages about that whole situation, asking me if I agree with a genocide. I was like, what the heck?
Next time they tell you that, ask them this. Like, don't even give them the answer. Make them look it up themselves so they feel foolish alone. Ask them, what's the population of Gaza today versus 10 years ago versus 15 years ago versus 20 years ago? Because this is the only genocide that I know where the population doubles every 5 years.
Yeah. And you know that genocide that happened in Rwanda?
Yes, that was an actual genocide.
Yeah. You know that this is going to sound so bad, and I hope people are not going to understand
Just say
what I'm
it.
saying.
Just say it.
Say it.
So I'm going to be you. Just say it.
They are doing so much better ever since development, in their country.
Once you stop the violence in any country or community, it's amazing how much advancement that they have after that. And when you look at Africa, you look at you still have people in Africa living in huts.
Oh, of
right?
course.
5,000 years later. By the way, not just Africa, Dominican Republic. I had a kid that transferred into Lawrence High School when I was a senior. He was from the Dominican Republic. He had never been in a classroom in his life. That was 1985.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still happening. He lived in the mountains.
Countryside.
He lived in the countryside. His family were farmers. He'd never been. The kid was 17 years old. He'd never sat in a classroom.
They share one woman, all
Right.
the guys around.
It's very primitive, and we think that the rest of the world is like us. The rest of the world is nothing like us. We are the most advanced people in human history in this country. We don't get it. We don't. Most people don't understand. People think they look at what's going on in Gaza with Israel, and they think that they're like us. They're not like us. They're nothing.
Like us.
Do you know that all these liberal idiots that are complaining about Gaza? Ask them what would happen if you walked down any street in Gaza with a gay flag. You wouldn't make it 5 feet.
How much money was the Democratic Party sending to the Middle East? Millions.
Billions, right?
For a freaking parade.
Right. So I did want to talk about the Supreme Court thing with the guns. It's very important, and I can't rely on someone like Francisco Polino or my friend Estella Reyes or my friend Ryan Hamilton, who's just completely gone now. I can't depend on them to have any common sense and buck their party when it comes to gun rights, because they're going to do whatever their party tells them to do, and none of them have any idea what a gun is.
They got to stop drinking the Kool-Aid.
The one thing about Francisco that I will say, and I think gives him hope, is that before we went on the air, we were chatting, and I ask every elected official off the air, and you know this, but people at home don't. Whenever we're chatting and I'm talking to an elected official, I say, do you have a concealed carry permit? Because today, if you're an elected official, you are in the public eye. There's a lot of fucking nuts out there. And we see a lot of political violence going on in this country. And just because we haven't had a lot of it around here doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And so Francisco was here, and I said, by the way, before we even had the gun discussion on the air, I said, by the way, are you concealed carry? And he said, no, but I'm about to be. I'm actually in the process of doing it. I want to get self-protection. I want to learn how to use a gun. And my first thought was, there's hope for him. Because once he understands gun safety, once you've been trained, you don't really be trained. It takes you 5 minutes to understand it. But, the people who don't understand guns say you have to be properly trained. No, it takes 5 minutes to understand what a safety is. My gun has a double safety. I wish I could show it to you, but I don't know. I'm going to research the law to see if I can bring my gun and actually show you guys stuff. My gun has a double safety. So if you don't have the web of your hand gripping, if you pick up my gun and you pick it up by the trigger and you do this, it's not going to go off.
Oh.
You have to have your web of your finger with the double safety. It has to be wedged in when you're grabbing the handle without. I'm on the air, so I'm using the wrong terminology. But when you're grabbing the gun, So if a kid were to walk into my office
And play with it.
and play with it and pull the trigger and do this and pull the trigger, it's not going to work unless it's really an adult hand that's grabbing the grip, right?
So there's so much like safety.
There's
that's
so
to it.
much, and the people who don't know anything about it talk about these things like they know, but they don't. And the sad thing is you have people who don't know anything about this industry regulating the industry. And, it's weird. Like, I got elected to the school committee in 1986. I was a 25, 26-year-old kid. I didn't know anything about education except that I had one.
I still can get over when we went to Gregory Del Rosario's campaign kickoff. And you said, when I first ran at 18, I ran as a joke in front of everybody. You should have seen everyone's faces in the back like, oh.
I did. I don't know if I've ever told that story on the show before, but at the time in 1985, there was a fist fight at a school committee meeting. My mom was a school nurse at the Oliver School, so she used to bring me to the school committee meetings to know if they were going to cut the nurses' budget. So I'd bring my homework. I didn't care about school committee stuff. I didn't care about anything. I was a teenager. And I'd do my homework, and one day I'm doing my homework, and I look up, and there's a fist fight at a school committee meeting. And I'm not talking about in the crowd. I'm talking about among school board members. It was Carol Bannon and Bill Callaghy slugging it out. And Carol Bannon, who was all of 5'2", came across the table at Bill Callaghy, who was a lot heavier than I am right now. He's probably about 300 pounds at the time. She was kicking the snot out of him. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And the next day on the front page of the paper, there was a headline about the fist fight. And I looked at it, and I was like, and everybody I talked to was like, did you hear about the fist fight? That must have been wild. What a joke they are. And I thought, a joke? Maybe I'll run. So I did. I went out and I pulled out nomination papers. I had no intention on actually running. I pulled nomination papers. I got a phone call from the Tribune and WCCM, which was actually a real radio station at the time that did news. And they asked me why I wanted to run. And I said, because my slogan is going to be, Tom Duggan, he's 18, but he's going to bring maturity to the school board. Right? And I thought it was funny. I thought people would laugh. I get 5 votes, and that would be the end of it. Well, here we are, 45
I was
years.
not expecting you to say that.
Here we are, 40 years later,
you
right?
had Pavel Payano. You had all these people. All the state reps were there right behind you, and you're like, first time I ran as a judge.
And by the way, what an honor it was. By the way, what an honor it was.
Yeah.
I wish I had been better dressed, but for those of you who didn't see
you don't
it,
need to. That's who you are.
so we're sitting at say it again.
Gregory Del Rosario. Gregory Del Rosario. He actually called the radio this morning.
Del Rosario.
Give me a shout out.
Gregory Del Rosario.
And I give
I'm
going
to get myself a Dominican girlfriend yet with that kind of role. Gregory Del Rosario.
Yeah, you got
okay,
it.
very good.
You got
So
it.
I'm sitting at Greg's fundraiser. He invited me, and I was so happy to go. I don't go to many events now because my health isn't, it's not bad, but it's not great.
In the
I'm
summer,
not moving
it's too
around.
freaking hot, man.
So I went, and I called him, and I said, can you let me in the back door because I'm carrying? And the last time I went to one of his events, they wouldn't let me in the door because Lawrence has this stupid law, which, by the way, we could spend another 10 minutes on that. Lawrence has this stupid ordinance that the city council passed because none of them know anything about guns, that you can't carry a gun into any kind of a nightclub after 6 o'clock at night.
I
Which is
kind of agree with that one.
fucking insane. It's insane because look at the gun violence that's happened in Lawrence and nightclubs in the last 2 years. What did the criminals do? They pushed past the security guard. They just bowled him over. You got one security guard out front with a wand. 5 guys show up. They bowl him over. They go in and they just start shooting. And now they're shooting fish in a barrel because not one person in that nightclub has a gun because they all went through the screening to get in. So by the way, this is why you don't see me in
Not
nightclubs
even
anymore.
securities have guns, right?
Right. So
what's the point?
So the point is we want to make people feel like they're safe.
But they're not.
But exactly, does that make it worse?
Yeah, that's
It
true.
makes it worse, right?
It does make it worse.
So I'm sitting there at Greg's thing, and I'm enjoying it, and I was really hungry. I hadn't eaten all day, so I just kept eyeing the
food was
like
so freaking
I'm like,
good.
when are they going to pull the
We
tin
need to
foil
go to
off
a
that
Dominican
food?
restaurant. One of these days.
Oh, we're going tomorrow, aren't we, with Gregory?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Do we know where we're going?
He said something blue something.
Oh, okay. I like that one. Yeah.
What's it called? Do you
Blue
know?
Lounge.
Where is it?
It's on right next to where the Clara used to be. In that
Oh,
corner.
the one across. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
All
little
right.
corner. It used to
Okay.
be called La Parrilla.
Yeah.
Now it's, a shout out to Shauna Hamilton, who's watching.
Sean Hamilton?
Yeah.
Oh, Shauna Hamilton.
Shauna.
Oh, Shauna, okay.
Yeah.
Right,
I used to work with her.
Oh, yeah? She cute?
Yeah. That's his mom, Ryan Hamilton's
Oh, that's
mom.
Ryan Hamilton's mom?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, I take that back.
Take it back. Oh my
Because
God.
Ryan Hamilton's mom couldn't possibly be cute, right?
She's very.
I'm going to
very
take it
good
back.
looking.
No, I got to take it back because she couldn't possibly be
No,
cute.
she is.
Oh,
But,
okay,
you know,
all right,
she's
okay.
just someone I respect.
See?
She's a teacher.
See?
I don't know if she's still teaching, but shout out to you. She's an incredible teacher. She worked at the Oliver School. I'm not sure where
In
she
Lawrence?
is now. In Lawrence.
Right now, is she in Lawrence?
I'm not sure. When I worked there, she was a teacher for fourth grade, and she's just an incredible
I'm glad she's just tuning in
ELA teacher.
because I just said something mean about her son.
No, she was there.
Oh, she was there doing that?
She was there.
That would have been good to know.
Oh, I don't know.
By
I
the
just
way.
looked down and I saw it.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
just giving you a hard time.
But she's a great,
Listen,
she's
we're
a
all-
great example. I remember when he was running and she was working there the first time, and she was really excited, and she's a very respected person. So
All right,
shout out to you, honey.
So let me get back to this. We're going to talk about one more Lawrence thing. I'm going to bail out. So I was sitting at Greg Del Rosario's fundraiser, and what is her name? I call her Derma Espada, but she hates it when I call her that because we have a history. So the woman that was doing the Santiago Matias's wife.
Milagros.
Milagros Matias. She used to be Milagros Dominguez. She's had so many names now, I can't remember anymore.
Yeah.
So she gets up and she's the MC, and I've known her forever. We've been friends, we've been enemies, we've been friends.
Okay.
We're okay now. The minute she saw me helping Brian 4 years ago, we were back to being friends. It's weird how that always works in politics.
Yeah.
You suck until you support my guy, then you're a good person again. So she gets up and she calls up the mayor, and the mayor speaks, and she calls up Pavel. I don't think he spoke, and then she called up Estella, and I don't think she spoke. And they called up Francisco Polino, and they called up the fire chief.
Frank Moran was there.
Frank
too.
Moran they called up, who generally doesn't go to these things, so it was nice to see him. They called up a couple of city councilors, and now they're all standing on stage, right? They're all in three-piece suits. They're all standing on stage. There's about 12 of them, right? Ralph Carrero,
Yeah, the
superintendent, who shouldn't be a superintendent, but that's not the whole show.
No, don't say that.
Okay, I won't say that.
I support him.
All right. When my phone doesn't ring,
I
I know it's him.
I used to work at LFDCS when
Yep.
he was superintendent there, and he does an incredible job. He's
So
a hard worker, and he has good vision for the.
So I'm sitting there, and they're announcing all these people, and then Milagros says, and by the way, I'm in sweatpants. I'm in sweatpants and a 3XL shirt because I'm fat now. I'm trying to lose weight because of all my medical issues. And she says, and by the way, we have another celebrity in the room. She said in English and in Spanish. And I'm like, oh, who is it? And I'm looking around like everybody that I know is up on stage. Like, who's? She said, Tommy Duggan, publisher of the Valley Patriot, and we'd like him to introduce Greg.
Aww.
I was so honored because it's amazing to me, and this is something that everybody in politics should listen to and think about. Forget that it's me, but listen to the story that I'm telling you. I go into Methuen and I'm an effing racist. I go to an event in Methuen, and people will actually come over and call me. Liberal Democrats who don't know anything about living in a minority neighborhood because they live in a lily white neighborhood with their Democrat ideals will come over to me at the VFW or some other event, and they'll be like, you're that Duggan guy. You're a racist. And I get this wherever I go. I was in North Andover at an event. I was at a town meeting a couple months ago. Was it a town meeting or something else? Doesn't matter. And I went over talking to these ladies and just chatting. And I'm like, oh, how's everything going? And one of them went, oh, I know who you are. And I went, oh, who am I? She said, you're that racist. You're that Duggan guy that runs that white supremacist newspaper, which obviously she hasn't read.
How do you not slap somebody? I mean, there's a woman.
Let me tell you something.
If somebody came up to me and said,
I have
I'll
such
slap
thick skin.
the shit out of them.
I have such thick skin at this point that I don't care. And then I go to Lawrence, and the Dominicans treat me like a fucking hero. I walked into Gregory de Rosario's office, fundraiser, and you should have seen people light up wanting to get selfies with me. One guy came over and asked me for my autograph. Freddie Diaz, who's running for city council, came over. He goes, "Is that the only Valley Patriot left?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Can you sign that for me?" I was like, "Are you kidding?" I thought he was mocking me. I was offended. I thought he was mocking me. And he looked at me. He goes, "No, I'm actually serious. Could you sign that for me?" He goes, "I remember you from like 25 years ago. You've been doing this for a long time. I remember the first time I ran against Dave Abdu, and you were very involved, and you were covering for Rumbo, and you were doing this. You've been doing this a long time. You're like a legend in this business."
I get a lot of calls. I get a lot of emails and stuff about you, why you work at the Sky, and I said he's not what you think he is. I think you should listen to what he says. You know, you just close your eyes. Somebody says he's racist, you believe it. You don't consume any of his things. But that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, and I'm okay. And by the way, I'm okay with that. Anybody who wants to think I'm a racist, I'm a bastard, that's fine.
When they come to me, I tell them.
But isn't it funny how it's always the liberal white people who live in lily white neighborhoods who don't expose themselves to Latinos and black people are saying that I'm the racist.
But you do.
But then I go into Lawrence to an event, and
You feed the homeless on Wednesdays in Lawrence. You go to the restaurants. You're helping small businesses. You do a lot for the community. You give scholarships to Lawrence
I know,
High.
but I'm not making it about that. I'm more making it about how.
I know. But I'm saying you are more involved in that community from those people that say that you're racist.
Right. And again, if they want to call me racist, that's fine. But isn't it interesting how, again, the lily white liberals who live in a lily white neighborhood in a lily white community will judge you as being a racist because they have no idea what a friggin' racist really is. They're just going by what they hear and what they see on CNN. But then when you go into the heart of Lawrence in District C,
yeah, that's the hood.
The least white neighborhood
that's
in
the
Lawrence.
Hood.
Right. I mean, that's like
Park Street and Lawrence Street.
You don't get any less white than that. All right. I parked my car on Lawrence Street and people were looking at me funny, and then I swear to God, I heard one person go, "Is that white guy?" And I heard another one go, "Yeah, it's Duggan." And I turned around and I looked, and it was the relative of a Lawrence cop. And so I went over and I said, "Hey, thanks for saying that," because I was really nervous when I saw these guys. They're like, "You're good, Tom. You're fine." So I go into Greg's, and everybody treats me like a hero. I go to the Stella Ray's fundraiser. Everybody treats me like a hero. I go into Vaca. People treat me like a hero. And I feel it boosts my ego. It makes me feel better about myself. Not that matters really a whole lot. But then it's weird how, like, I leave and I go to Andover to cover the No Kings rally, and like, "You're a Trumper, you're a racist." And I'm like, these people are so out of touch. My point is that these people are so out of touch.
They are.
That like to hurl the invective of racism.
They live in a bubble.
And they're the real racists, right?
They're the real racists.
They're the ones that think, and this is going to go right into what we're going to talk about, then we're going to wrap the show up.
I worked with them. So
Well, you did.
I
worked at Phillips Academy.
I worked at Phillips Academy and Andover.
You can't get any more racist than that.
The most racist, hypocrite people I've ever met.
Oh, you can. You can get a little more racist. You could be in Martha's Vineyard. But most of those people are from Martha's Vineyard. So really it's 50-50,
they're
right?
from like fancy family. Old money.
But these are the people who, and here's how watch how cleverly I transition now. These are the same people who say Latinos are too stupid to get a voter ID. That blacks are too dumb to get a voter ID. These are the people who say we can't have election integrity because, blacks are too dumb to go out and get an ID.
It's not affordable.
Right? And so in Lawrence right now, so I don't know if you, for those of you who have not been watching me a lot for the last year, 2 years ago I broke a story about voter fraud in Lawrence. For all the Democrats who tell you voter fraud doesn't exist.
You want another one?
Yes, I'm here to tell you voter fraud absolutely does exist, and we watch it in Lawrence on a regular basis. I literally could and may write a book on how to steal an election, on how to do voter fraud. Because those of us who have been covering Lawrence elections for a long time, going back to, in my case, 1985, but others maybe 1990, 1995 that I know that every single method of how to steal an election has happened in Lawrence successfully. And whenever the national, I always say, if you're not sure if the national narrative is true or whether it's full of shit, always look at the local level. And if what you see at the local level is what you are hearing about the national level, then you know it's true. But if you look at the local level, most of the time you find out that the national narrative is full of shit. Thank you, sweetheart. Here she is. Huh? Intern girl in the house. 2 years ago, I broke a story on this show. We had video of someone going onto someone's porch and stealing an absentee ballot, stealing a vote-by-mail ballot out of someone's mailbox. And here's how this grift works for those of you who say there's no such thing as voter fraud. Here's how, there's several different ways to do it, but this is only one. So if you're a candidate, you have campaign people who do what's called Get Out the Vote, GOTV. You call people on the voting list and you say, "Hi, Mrs. Smith, are you voting for Tom Duggan in the next election for city council?" And if they say, "I absolutely would never vote for that guy," you put them down as a 3. They're not going to vote for you no matter what you say. You don't waste your time with them, you hang up the phone. But you put them down on your list as a 3, so when your candidate's knocking doors, they do not even bother knocking on that door, save themselves some time. If they say, "Well, I've been thinking about it, but I haven't really made my decision," you put them down as a 2. If they go, "You know what, I love that guy, that Duggan guy's great," you put them down as a 1. Now, an honest campaign, this is how it runs. 2 weeks before the election, you send your candidate out to all the people who are 1s. They're definitely voting for you. And you want to go to them first because you want to remind them when election day is. They're your voters. You want to make sure they're going to show up. And if they say, a lot of times people say, geez, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it that day. You know, my son's going to have my car. You go, well, you know what? My campaign would be happy to send a van to come pick you up. Where do you vote? At the Partham School? We'll bring you to the Partham School. We'll even give you a sandwich, and then we'll bring you home when you're done. And so that's how you shore up your base to get them out. Any good campaign knows how to do that, right? If you're not an honest campaign person, though, here's how it works. When you finish doing your 1, 2s, and 3s in a certain neighborhood, you go to all of the people who are 3s who are not going to vote for you.
Oh, okay.
The people who aren't going to vote for you. And you drive around and you look for people who have signs for your opponents on their lawn. And then you call City Hall and you ask them for the absentee ballot list. Who requested an absentee ballot? And you compare them to your 1, 2s, and 3s. And if you get 15 people in a neighborhood that requested an absentee ballot and they're one of your 3s, they're someone who's not voting for your candidate no matter what, your next question to the guy in City Hall is, well, when are those ballots going out? When do you expect those to arrive? Now, because it's public, they have to tell you, right? It's a public election. It has to be total transparency. They have to tell you. And this is what happened in Lawrence 2 years ago. Fidelina Santiago, who, in full disclosure, was one of my candidates. So I'm not saying this because I don't like her or I campaigned against her. She was my candidate. I endorsed her. Pull up the picture because there'll be people saying that I'm full of shit. This was me the night that I endorsed her at City Hall. That's Fidelina Santiago. She's cute as can be. That's Carlos Moore, a great guy on the left from TMF.
He's my cousin, yeah.
Is he really?
Yeah, I told you this.
I think you did, actually.
Yeah, he's my cousin.
And that was me, like, before I gained all the weight. Look how happy I was.
Yeah.
Because she's beautiful. I'm always happy when I'm with a beautiful woman, no matter what. Even if they're married, I couldn't care less, right? So I endorsed Fidelina, and so her campaign, what she decided to do was she took her 3s. She had somebody call City Hall, find out when those ballots were going out, and she drove a campaign supporter up and down Prospect Street to go to all the homes. They followed the mailman because they knew that the absentee ballots were going out that day. They followed the mailman, and so he would go up onto a porch and put the mail in, and they'd wait till he was 5 or 6 houses away, and then she would pull up, and her campaign worker would get out of the car, go up under the porch, and take the ballot out of the mailbox. And you do that because the person who requested the ballot doesn't know what day their ballot's going to come. So they have no idea that day, which is maybe a week before the election, that they were supposed to get that ballot that day, but they didn't. So what happens come election day when that person didn't get their ballot? Well, if they didn't get their ballot, they usually just say, well, I guess I can't vote because they usually requested it because they
What happens if they go and try to vote?
Well, so here's one of two things can happen. So I've seen some campaigns during the Willie Antigua era, they would not only steal the ballots, but they'd fill them in and mail them out. But they'd fill them in with the people that they wanted to win, and they'd mail them in. So now all City Hall knows.
You have to sign that, so they will forge.
So all City Hall knows is that they sent out an absentee ballot, and they got an application. They sent out the absentee ballot. The absentee ballot came back and signed, right? And they put it in with all the other ballots. So for those of you who say there's no such thing as voter fraud, how can anybody vote a fraud? This is, by the way, I'm telling you, I'm giving you a blueprint of one of 12 ways that we know that we've watched happen, okay? And this is just the one that happened 2 years ago. So Fidelina did this. We got the Ring camera. We showed it on the show of her campaign worker that went up under the porch. At the time, William Castro was acting chief. I called William Castro and I said, do you know who the driver of the car was? Because I had rumors, but I didn't know. And he said, no, we don't. I said, well, I know that on Prospect Street you have traffic cameras. So I've got the Ring video of what time they were there. So if I give you the Ring video and you have the time that they were at that guy's house, can't you check the cameras on both ends of Prospect Street around that time to see who was driving the car? Because we know who the person was. I'm not going to mention her name, but we know who the person was that went up on No, I promised that I wouldn't. I promised that I wouldn't. Because it's somebody that gave me a lot of information on this, and I don't want to hurt anybody.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have no problem doing it, but it was a source. Look at the cameras and see who it was, and he called me back within an hour, and he said, you're not going to believe who was driving the car. And I'm like, please just don't tell me it was one of my candidates. At the time, we thought it might have been Wendy Luzon, because I know that the person identified in the video was working on Wendy's campaign, and I was frightened because I endorsed Wendy, and I knew Wendy was going to win or lose by like 5 votes. I knew that was a very close race, and I was really nervous about it. And he said, no, it's not Wendy Luzon. It's Fidelina Santiago. And I almost fell off my chair. I almost died. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The mayor endorsed the guy that ran against her, and I endorsed her. And the mayor's people were mayor doesn't care, but the mayor's people were very mad at me for endorsing Wendy and for endorsing Fidelina. And I was shocked. So here we are 2 years later. Why do I bring this up now? Well, they've both been convicted. I know that has not been released yet. I'm going to release it. They've both been convicted, and they're going to be going for sentencing very shortly. I know what the sentencing guidelines are that they're looking for. One of them, they're both going to do jail time. Fidelina's probably not going to do a lot. It may be 10 days. It may be 30 days, but she's going to do something. The other one's going to do a lot more. The person who actually pulled the ballot out of the mailbox, right? She's going to do more. But part of the agreement is that Fidelina's going to have to plead guilty, right? She's going to allocute what they say. She's going to give the details of what she did. And she has to agree not to run for re-election, which she's obviously not now, and never run again.
The fact that she's able to still vote for things, though, on the council, that's crazy.
You're getting ahead of me just a little bit.
Because she's part of the haters.
Right. Well, that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm not bringing it up to shame anybody. I'm not bringing it up to be mean. I'm bringing it up because of this. The Lawrence City Council, within the last month or so, had a measure before them to extend vote by mail in this year's election. And Fidelina Santiago fucking voted for it. So think about this. The seat that she stole using voter fraud, the person who committed voter fraud to steal a seat on the city council, then used the authority of that seat to extend fraud or the possibility of fraud in this year's election. And that's not a national story? Like, how is that not a national story? How is Fox News not all over this? So Anna Levy wrote a letter. She was very upset. City Council at large, Anna Levy, was very upset about this. She voted no on the vote by mail. Gregory Del Rosario voted no on vote by mail. I think also Selena Reyes voted no on vote by mail. And Anna Levy decided that she'd had enough of this shit. She's been trying to get the city council to pass a voter ID for the last 4 or 5 years. And it continues to sit on the city council agenda. They won't do anything about it. They won't do anything about it.
Because they're too busy doing what?
They're too busy micromanaging Brian DePena. They're too busy crying about everything Brian does, not doing their own job. For the most part, there are some good councilors in there, and the council as a whole is doing some good things. I don't want to be one of these 100% people that paints anybody.
But everything that they're supposed to be should be priority. Mm-hmm. They're just letting it slide. Mm-hmm. They're not really getting on it. So. And
also, in full disclosure, Stephanie Infante did vote for the voter ID. She does want the voter ID. I think Giovanni does too. I digress. She wrote a letter to the Secretary of State asking the Secretary of State to come into Lawrence and oversee this year's election because I know, everyone in that council knows, everyone in the mayor's office knows, and everybody watching this knows that we all know how they cheated last time. And now that they've extended vote by mail, we're not talking absentee ballot. There's a difference. When I was growing up, there was absentee ballot. If you weren't going to be in town, if you were going to be in the hospital, if you were taking care of your mom, if your car broke down and you couldn't get to the polls, you could request an absentee ballot, and you had to have a reason. So absentee ballots, when in 85, 87, even 90, 95, those elections that took place, the absentee ballots were very low. In District C, you'd have 3. In District F, which was at the time the biggest voting precinct, you might have 18 or 19. But that was it. It wasn't like this massive thing. But since COVID, they're doing vote by mail, which is anybody for any reason can get a vote by mail without hardship, right? It's not like they're not going to be around. No. They just feel like, I want to vote early, which, by the way, is always, as a side note, another bad idea. Because
that's how the elections were lost for Trump.
Right. So, but how many times have you decided to vote for somebody, and then a week before the election, there's a big scandal that comes out about something that happened a year ago that you didn't know about your candidate, and you go, you know what, I'm not voting for that guy. If you voted 3 weeks before that, you don't get the opportunity to change your mind. You've already mailed your ballot in. It's just a bad idea. Mm-hmm. It used to be an election day, and now we have an election month because of this stupid vote by mail crap. So so she wants the Secretary of State to come in and oversee the Lawrence elections this year because we know with the vote by mail, we know what happened 2 years ago We know what happened 4 years ago. We know what happened 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and all the way down the line. All the way way past Willie Lantigua, going all the way back to John Buckley when I was in high school in 1983. All right? So we know how the fraud in Lawrence has occurred. Despite what the Democrats say on CNN, despite what the Democrats in Massachusetts Senate say and the House, despite the propaganda that you hear, there's nothing to see here. These are not the droids you're looking for. It's all smoke and mirrors. The fact is there is voter fraud. It is widespread. It does happen. And if it's happening in these numbers in Lawrence, Lawrence is one community in the country. It's a small 6-mile radius city. If it's happening in Lawrence, you don't think it's happening in Haverhill? You don't think it's happening in Boston?
Methuen?
You don't think it's happening in Methuen? You don't. Well, I think Methuen's a little different.
Yeah.
I think Methuen's a little different, but still probably happening. Probably not in the numbers.
I voted
it's
by mail
happening.
for the president.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a problem in Lawrence. We have a problem everywhere, but Lawrence seems to be the one community where everything kind of happens on the surface. In other communities, they hide their fraud. In other communities, they hide their wrongdoing. In Lawrence, they brag about it. Like, we had a mayor that literally bragged about how he won an election and, like, detailed one day on a Spanish language radio program laughing about how he did certain things in District D. So he had an additional 1,000 votes showed up in District D when he ran for mayor. 1,000 votes on Prospect Hill that had never happened before and have never happened since.
What are you talking about?
And we're talking about Willie Lantigua.
Oh,
and he bragged about it. In fact, he bragged about it on my show after he left mayor. Long after he started off saying, "No, come on, Tommy, that's not that. You're making that up. You're making that up." And then he kind of came around and started. Yeah, you're right. We kind of did that a little bit, but you got a little wrong. This is one of the things that dishonest people always do. You call them out for something, but maybe get one little detail wrong, so that they say that's all bullshit.
I'm still not over the jail time.
For
a counselor. Yeah.
Well, listen, the fact that a city counselor, and
Can
again,
I put a picture up again?
Yeah, put her picture up again. The fact that a city councilor in Lawrence, any city councilor, and I don't know her. I've only had 3 conversations with her my whole life. So it has nothing to do with personal. It's not personal. But the fact that a city councilor could commit fraud to take a seat and then use that seat to commit fraud, to further the fraud that they committed, to continue the tool that was used to commit that fraud for the next election. Now, she's endorsing a candidate in that race. She's endorsing it. She's not running for re-election as of right now. We know she's not because of the criminal thing. She can't. I mean, she could, but it would cause way more problems for her, right? But she is endorsing a candidate, right?
They should also look around all the other counselors who are buddies with her.
Well,
I'm sure there's something going on there too.
There probably is. I'm not going to say for sure that there is, but there probably is. And I'm kind of outraged that A, it happened, and B, where is the outrage?
Where's everyone talking? Why isn't everyone talking about that?
Well, because they're talking about Brian DePina's billboard, and there's a comma in the wrong place, and then you can pull that down. There's a comma in the wrong place in the budget, and they have to nitpick every little thing that Brian does. Last night at the city council meeting, Wendy Luzon went on Facebook yesterday. I'm going to end with this, and I promised myself I wasn't going to do it. I'm going to do it anyway, because I love Wendy as a human being, and I'm trying really hard to get her to change her ways so that I can endorse her again, but I don't think it's going to happen. So Wendy posted yesterday on Facebook. First, she posted a thing saying it was totally illegal, and like everything else, this is illegal. We did a federal investigation. Corruption, like she always goes that route. But I noticed when I tried to copy what she wrote, all of a sudden it disappeared. So I think she realized, and I do this the time, I'll post something, then I'll read it and go, well, that's kind of harsh, and then I'll take it down and I'll rewrite it. So I think that's what happened yesterday. Okay. So I'm not holding that against her. I think it's actually good that she read it and realized that some of the things that she said were blatantly untrue. She took it down, but then she reposted it with a little bit better words, right? It was less verbose, it was less outrageous, but still had the same message, and this is what the message was, that the mayor had ordered the police chief not to speak at a public radio show or at a public event. Now, she went on and on about how this has never happened before. This is unprecedented. This is probably illegal. She added probably after she took it down. She went back. She wrote probably illegal. First of all, not illegal. Okay, it's not illegal for the mayor of the city of Lawrence or any mayor, at least under a strong mayoral form of government, to order a city employee to have a gag order. And Wendy's been railing, and she railed it last night during the meeting, very inappropriately with the new fire chief that was being nominated. She had to somehow find a way. She voted for Brian's nominee for fire chief, so she had to find a way to like make it a poop sandwich. Like she was going to give him what he wanted, but she was going to make him pay for it. And she talked about how, are you going to show up at meetings even if he tells you can't? And what's a guy supposed to say? The mayor just nominated me to be fire chief, and you want me to come here at the public meeting and say, yeah, if he tells me to do something, I'm not going to do it. I'm already being insubordinate before you even sign my contract. But she had to make it about that. She went on Facebook yesterday, and she's going on and on about how it's illegal, and it's never happened before, and it flies in the face of transparency. We need transparency with our police chief. Now, I appreciate that she feels that way if she actually does feel that way. However, it's not illegal. The mayor is the chief executive officer. The police department is an executive function. The mayor is in charge of every department. He's in charge of every department head. DPW, police chief, fire chief, superintendent of schools. The mayor is the chief executive officer. Every city employee answers to the mayor, from the guy who collects garbage, as long as they're a city employee, the guy who's fixing pipes, to the teachers at the Arlington school, to the police chief and the patrolman on the street. Every single one of those people works for the mayor. And I have seen under several mayors, Willie Lantigua, even Mike Sullivan, giving gag orders to members of the city, people who are city employees, because they had said something publicly that embarrassed the city. So I remember, they were also claiming, by the way, also within this was that certain, it's going to sound self-serving, I'm going to do it anyway, that certain members of the press, they were alluding to me and someone else, but certain members of the press get the benefit of getting information before everybody else. Okay, fine. You want to complain about that? First, there's nothing illegal about it. But secondly, let's remember back to, 5 minutes ago when Dan Rivera was mayor, the Eagle Tribune got everything. And I mean everything. When John Romero was the police chief, he wouldn't even take my friggin' calls. He wouldn't take Rumbo's calls. He wouldn't take Tim Coco's calls at WHAV. He went to Jill Himizinski at the Tribune, made sure that not only did they have the story, but that they posted the story before he would take anybody else's calls, because he had a deal with the Eagle Tribune that you make me look good and I'll feed you the information on whatever you want. That was the deal that they had. Nobody cried about it. I didn't cry about it. I didn't like it, but I didn't cry about it. I told him he was wrong several times, but I didn't cry about it. And there was no outcry in the community. And when Willie Lantigua was mayor and Fire Chief Murphy, acting Fire Chief Murphy at the time, made some statements because Willie cut the fire department, and all of a sudden we had arson fires all over the city, and guys were getting hurt. And he did an interview with Channel 7 at the site of a fire one night, blaming the mayor for the fires that were going on, and that their response time was getting longer and longer because they had fewer guys to respond to fires. And in Lawrence, if you've got multiple fires going on at the same time, you're in big trouble. You have to wait for mutual aid to come from Haverhill, from North Andover, from other places. Willie issued a gag order on him and then fired him. He fired him. And the Valley Patriot gave him an Officer Tom Duggan Hero Award that year at our bash because he dared to use his free speech. But, again, you can use your free speech, but it doesn't mean there isn't going to be consequences. Willie Lantigua might have been doing a horrible thing, but he had every right to do it. And Brian DePina has every right to say to the police chief, in fact, under Willie Lantigua, after that happened, he issued an executive order that no department head was allowed to talk to the press unless they cleared in writing what they were going to say with him. That was the edict under Willie. And by the way, I don't fault them for it at all. You can't have rogue department heads going out and saying things to the Eagle Tribune or on Facebook or on social media that doesn't comport with the message of your administration. Remember, Mo Aguilar might be the police chief, but he represents the DePina administration. Mm-hmm. And the fire chief that got appointed last night, Patrick Delaney, might be the fire chief, but he represents.
I wish you would have told me we were going to talk about this. I have pictures of Mo with like the counselors that don't like Brian.
You know, I
they take selfies and stuff.
I'm
together.
trying really hard not to go to war with Mo. I like him as a person. I know what he's been through. I have a lot of respect for what he's been through. He's involved in an officer-involved shooting, and with my family and my father being police officers, I completely get it. I'm not happy with the way he treated the Tom Cuddy situation. I'm not happy with the way he's handled a couple of other situations. But I'm trying hard not to go to war with the guy because he is the police
But what
chief.
is wrong with the picture they posted? Those pictures are posted.
Because it has a political implication, and I don't like it.
But it is what it is.
No, I'm saying I don't like the political implication that it has. But I also don't know that he meant it in the political way that it's being interpreted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he's posing what Integril's trying to say without saying it. I'll just say it. Is that there are pictures out there of Chief Aguilar with city councilors that hate Brian. And it gives the impression that he's with them, not with the mayor. Now, there are also, by the way, I saw pictures from National Night of the chief with the mayor. Okay, those didn't quite make the rounds the way the other pictures did because we have a political narrative to run in the city. It is interesting that Julissa Nunez, who called for the firing of Mo Aguilar when he was a captain, who posted really scurrilous and dishonest and lies about Mo Aguilar on Facebook, called him all kinds of names. Accused him of using drugs while he was at work, like really horrible things that she publicly accused him of, is now kissing his ass because now he's in power. Yeah. And now she knows that if she can get in good with him, like everybody else, whenever you achieve a position of power in Lawrence or anywhere else, everyone kisses your ass because they know that that your power carries weight and they can get things done. Put it this way, I don't have Mo Aguilar's phone number. Yeah. I should have it. I should have asked him when we met with the mayor a couple weeks ago. But I don't really call the chief that much. I have Scott McNamara's number in Methuen. I might text him once every 5 months because I just have a quick passing question, and it's easier to get it right from the source than to get it from someone else. But I don't have his number, but I guarantee you, I'm pretty sure, I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure Julis has got his number. And I'm pretty sure all of those city councilors that hate Brian all have his number.
Now she likes him.
Well, she likes him now because he's got power.
And he's against Brian, right?
Well, that's the perception.
Allegedly.
That's the perception. I don't believe. By the way, I don't believe that perception.
No, because he gave him a job.
I think Mo is not a politician. Okay. And I think one of the things that I've always liked about Mo is that he's not political. Yeah, he shows up to events once in a while. But, I've been doing this now since 1985. You know how many political events I've seen Mo at? When Estella Reyes ran for state rep for re-election last year, he showed up at one of her fundraisers and spoke. I've got a great video of him doing that. I was a little surprised by it because I had never seen him do that anywhere else ever. So I knew he was kind of angling to be chief or deputy chief. I knew he was trying to get something. I know it's coming across like I'm criticizing, but I'm not. I knew he was up to something. And I knew that the people in City Hall were grooming him for something because all of a sudden he showed up at a couple of political events. But I saw him at like 2, maybe 3, but I think 2. I know he walked into Brian DePina headquarters, I think when they had the kickoff maybe a month or 2 ago, the grand opening of the headquarters. Yeah. But other than that, he's not a political guy. He's not. I've never seen him at a city council fundraiser. I've never seen him at.
That's actually really good.
And I hope it stays that way. I honestly think, and this I could do a whole show on too. I gave Chief Fitzpatrick a lot of shit for this, and then when Roy came in, when Felix came in, I gave up. If you're a superintendent of schools, if you're a fire chief, if you're a police chief, it used to be illegal to go to a fundraiser. Massachusetts, within the last 10 years, made it not illegal. And it used to be illegal because if you're going to the mayor's fundraiser, well, he signed your contract. That's a payoff. You're paying money to support his political campaign, and he's signing your contract.
Or maybe there's something that you don't like the way he's managing you. Maybe he's tough on you, and you want to go against him. That sort of thing. You
show up at a city. So I remember when Judy Scannell showed up at Ryan DeZoglio's fundraiser for school committee, and I'm sorry, it was Nick DeZoglio's fundraiser for school committee, and I grabbed her afterwards, and I said, Judy, and I love Judy. Like we're on opposite sides now, but I love Judy. And I said, listen, you're the superintendent of schools. This guy signed your contract. This guy's in charge of your raise. This guy's in charge of your pay. It's illegal to be here. She said, no, it's not illegal. I looked it up. I said, well, I think you're wrong about that. I'm going to look it up, but I think you're right. But it always has been. If they change the law, they change the law. But it's still a bad look. It's still a conflict of interest. whether it's a legal conflict of interest or a moral conflict of interest, if you have a superintendent that's endorsing candidates for school committee who are in charge of their contract, that looks like you're buying your job. And by the way, you are buying your job. It doesn't just look that way. It's not just the appearance. It is. And I used to see Fitzpatrick at Dan Rivera fundraisers, and I'd go over to him and say, dude, I'm telling you this as a friend. You shouldn't be here. Like, he said, why are you always breaking my balls? You never broke Roy's balls like this. You never broke this one's balls like that. And I said, because I like you. I like you. I don't want to see you get in trouble. I don't want to see this get used against you. Because it may be technically not illegal anymore. Shame on the Democrats in Massachusetts for making that not a law, by the way. It should still be a law, right? But even if it's not against the law, something happens and you get sued. Let's say Dan Rivera fires you, right? And now the fact that you've gone to his fundraisers gets used against you in a trial. Or you use it against Dan in a trial, right? Somebody sues somebody sues you. All of a sudden, well, he's at the mayor's fundraiser. No, of course he didn't get disciplined by the mayor when we accused him of beating someone up because he's at the mayor's fundraisers every Friday night. Like, it's not a stretch for people to make that argument, especially an attorney, right?
You know what I wish the mayor will do is make an example with some of them. I will sue some of them for defamation or something.
So are you talking about city employees? Or you're talking about like people on the radio?
People on Facebook. They're writing things that are incorrect.
I will tell you one thing.
Wait, hold on. You want to follow? If whoever's listening, we have here John Drew, who's running for city council.
City council is good guys. One of my guys.
So if you follow the hate. And then you follow Brian, you see all that hate for everything he does. Oh, he was wearing a blue shirt. And in that place, they don't like blue. They like red. And then you go to Brian's side, and it's like Brian's working.
Right.
He's fixing this.
Right.
He's working 7 days a week.
He's paving roads.
He's paving roads. He's doing lives on Sundays, whoever's house, telling them this, helping them out with this. Like, it's completely two separate worlds.
I think he wins 70-30 right now.
Yeah.
If the election was today, he'd win 70-30.
Yeah.
If you had asked me that 3 months ago, I would have told you he would lose 50-40.
Yeah.
Right? It has changed. And we talked about this a couple of times, and we do have to go, but we talked about this a couple of times. Politics is a pendulum. It always swings one way and then comes back the other. And when the Castro thing happened, all the haters jumped on the bandwagon because they thought, this is the issue we can get to finally get rid of Brian. This is the one that's going to end him. And if the timing was different, they would have been right. If that scandal broke today, Brian would be in big trouble and probably would not win re-election. But because it happened in January, and now since that time, people get mad, people get emotional, they make emotional decisions, and then time goes by and they're not mad anymore. And you talk to people today about Castro, they don't like Castro, and they don't like what happened with Castro because of what they've read on social media or in the paper. But I don't know anybody now that is saying I'm not voting for Brian because of Castro. The people who were always voting against Brian will say, oh, Castro. But no one is using that to make their decision. Right, people forget.
People forget.
So if the election was today, Brian wins 70-30. Now, that could change, and it's going to change, right? We have another, September, so we have another.
We have the primaries, and then we have
the 16th, I think, is the September.
Yes,
so we have a
September
debate
16th,
on this show.
On the 11th.
Brian and Manny Gonzalez.
Okay.
Now, Brian has not been on the show. We did do an interview in his office on the illegals, but he's not been on the show.
Oh, I got so much hate for that.
I know, it's so funny.
Oh.
It's so funny.
I got disowned.
Is it funny how I'm a racist because I want to deport illegal aliens that are committing crimes? But the darkest Dominican in Lawrence, who's the mayor of Lawrence, has the exact same opinion, but he's somehow not a racist. So I'm a racist for my views because I'm white, but he's not a racist for having the same views. Anyways, I digress. I think the one thing that gives Juan Manny Gonzalez a chance in this election, I think he'd have no chance. If he didn't have Lenita Dykes as a campaign manager, he would have no shot. And I say this just objectively. I think he would have no shot because when he came on this show, and I've seen him on Spanish shows, he's gotten better, by the way. But when you try to talk to him about solutions, he doesn't come across as someone who has really thought these things out and has answers. And I think if he did that, and he's doing it, by the way. I saw him, he was tearing it up last Sunday on Spanish language radio. And I actually posted to, your friend Luis Robles? Is that was his name?
Luis Robles? Oh, yes.
And
I'm supporting him, not Jonathan.
I think I posted on his thing, where was this Manny 3 months ago when he was on my show, right? So Manny is getting better, and he is picking up steam. And right now it's 70-30, but I think it could be 60-40 very soon.
So yesterday, I posted this that says the same people supporting the opposition supported the last administration. What made them change every 4 years? No benefits?
Well, I could tell you why Julissa Nunez changed, and she hates when I talk about it, which is why I talk about it on every show.
What?
She supported Brian DePina.
Yeah.
Brian DePina gave her a job. Brian DePina had to fire her because she wasn't doing her job. And just like Kelly and Debo, they went from Brian as the second coming of Christ to Brian as Hitler in one move. Like, he went, and not only that, but he lent her money that she never paid him back. Like, here's a guy
Who
that
did?
Brian, $9,000.
To Kelly?
No, Julissa. Yeah.
How come he doesn't defend himself? That's the thing. I wish he did.
Here's the thing about Brian, and I'm going to end with this. Brian is the Latino Mike Sullivan. He doesn't like controversy, and he doesn't like confrontation. So I've seen people go over to him at a meeting or at an event and say something nasty to him, and he will smile at them, and then he'll walk away. He won't say anything back. In fact, when you walked into his office, the night that we did the video with him, the night that Mo Aguilar got appointed, we interviewed the mayor in his office, and you said, my cousin's Johnny Castillo.
No, my uncle.
My uncle is Johnny Castillo. And he said, oh, he's a really nice guy. And
I really like him.
He said, I really like him. And I said, well, that's good because I don't think he likes you. And what did he say?
I forget what he said. He said, that's too bad or
well,
something?
I like him anyway.
Oh, yes.
He said, I like him anyway. That's why Brian's going to win. And that's why Brian has a good leadership style. Because he doesn't like the confrontation that people in Lawrence obsess over. Wendy is obsessed with confrontation. I started off talking about Wendy, and I'm not going to have time now to go into it because we veered off. But, Wendy hates Brian. And because she hates Brian, she went after Scott Wood. And she went on Facebook, and she said that Scott Wood, the police officer, was being hired because it was corrupt, because he was friends with Castro, and he was a racist, and he's not a racist. And she took a rumor that was going around during the mayoral campaign.
Scott Wood is racist, but he's friends with Castro?
Right, the darkest guy you know, right? The darkest guy on the face of the earth, but he's racist, right? And I went on her thread when she did that, and she said, I want an FBI investigation. It's always illegal. She can't just say this is a bad idea. It's always they have to expand on it. She said, we need an FBI investigation. This is corruption. He's only hiring this racist because he's friends with Castro. It's the friends and family plan, on and on and on. And I went on her thread as a friend, and I said, you have this wrong. Scott Wood is not friends with William Castro. They've never been friends. Scott Wood is friends with Tom Duggan. Tom Duggan met with William Castro, and Tom Duggan walked Scott Wood into the mayor's office. And Tom Duggan is the one who said this guy got illegally fired in Haverhill over an issue that never happened. He wants to transfer out of Haverhill, and he still wants to be a cop. And if Brian hires him, no one can call him a racist because Brian's hiring him. And Brian decided to do it. And Brian said, okay. So Brian put him on. And then Julissa Nunez and Wendy Luzon and all the haters started screaming from the highest rafters on Maji's show and every other show about how this was corruption. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. Here's how it ended up. We now know the end of this story. This story ended exactly how I said on this show it was going to end. Brian changed his mind because he doesn't like controversy and he doesn't like confrontation. And the city attorney, he went to the city attorney and said, I want to reverse my decision to hire Scott Wood. Here's the problem. He had already hired Scott Wood. Scott Wood already signed the papers. Scott Wood was already an employee. So the only thing he could do is fire Scott Wood. So to appease everyone, including members of the council and Wendy and Julissa and Maji and all these other people who don't like Brian, who went after an innocent guy simply because he was being appointed by Brian. This is the problem that I have with the hate in Lawrence. You're not just hating on the person you hate. You're going after innocent people and you're hurting innocent people. Yeah. And so here's how it ended. They fired Scott Wood illegally because he was already hired and they didn't have cause. The city attorney, who I've been telling you needs to be fired for a long time, told Scott Wood he had to go for a background check. He's already an officer. He's already certified. He's already had a background check. Never in the history of Massachusetts has someone transferred from one department to another and have to go through another background check. I called Brian. I said, this guy's going to fucking sue the city. And first he's going to sue the city to get his job back. And then he's going to take away everyone's qualified immunity on the city council that posted about him on Facebook. And he's going to take their house. And I know this because I know Scott Wood. I know how he operates. This guy will take it and take it and take it. And once he's had too much, he's coming after everybody. He's like Tommy Duggan. You see how patient I am with people?
Yeah.
But once I'm done, I'm done. That's Scott Wood. And so Brian went back to the city attorney, and the city attorney said, no. Scott Wood can't win a case. Scott Wood can't win. He can't win. He can't win. And because this is a Dominican thing, because Tim Hooton is an attorney, he's an expert.
Oh, that he knows everything.
So he must know. So Brian listened to Tim Hooton. So Scott Wood sued, and Scott Wood won. And Scott Wood got, what did he get, $40,000 for back pay and everything?
Yeah, 40,000.
But that's not the end of it. Everyone thinks he won $40,000. That's it. That's not. That's
No.
That's the beginning. Because now he's going after Wendy Luzon. He's not just going to sue the city now. Now he's going to sue individuals who were going after him and slandering him and calling him a racist without due cause.
Yep. I would too.
There's a.
I wish Brian did the same thing to him.
So this is why I bring it up, and I know we have to go. The problem in Lawrence is that, and it's not everywhere. It's not unique to Lawrence, but Lawrence is one of the few places where you see this. The level of hate gets ramped up so much that they don't care who the innocent people are that they hurt, and at the end, it always ends up one way. The taxpayers pay. The taxpayers always pay, and you can see it in the way they've attacked department heads. The way they've attacked people Brian has tried to put on boards. And, it's really kind of a scummy thing that if you have such hatred for somebody, it's kind of like third grade. I don't like Jim, and you like Jim, but I don't want you to like Jim.
Yeah, I lost friends because of that.
And it's really kind of scummy.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted and still want to endorse Wendy. I think she brings tremendous value to the city.
She's a sweetheart.
I think she really cares. And she's done a lot for the city in the past, and I think she could do a lot in the future. But she's so blinded by her hatred of Brian,
the emotional part,
that it has now seeped into everything she does.
But does that make her a good leader, though?
Well, I think it makes a horrible leader. To be a good leader, you need to be able to give the flowers to the people who deserve it, whether you like them or not. And how many times do I come on here and say,
and be strong with your emotions. Don't let your emotions carry you.
So you got a guy getting up there last night being hired as the fire chief, and Wendy spent 5 minutes railing against Brian DePena because he ordered the police chief not to talk in a public meeting or whatever.
And it's not illegal.
And she went on and she said that it was illegal because, of course, they have to lie. They have to make what they don't like to be illegal because they think that's going to make people rally around them more. And it doesn't. What happens is you whip up the emotion. When you pull that shit, you whip up emotion, and you do get everybody on your side for about 5 minutes. And then the emotion dies down. And then people take a look and they go, it's kind of like the people that have woken up in the last 2 years about Donald Trump who said, I believed it when they said he called Mexicans rapists. And then I went on YouTube and saw the video, saw what he really said, and went, wait a minute. I believed them when they said he said Nazis were fine people.
All the hatred that Trump got, it made me swish over. I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
This guy's not saying anything wrong. What he's saying is true.
All right, so that's it. I could actually go another hour, but
I know. We haven't talked. I've been so busy. I
know.
My friend.
So we're gonna try
tomorrow, we have plans.
We do. Do we know what time? I don't think I know.
2.
What I set at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
That's a little early for me.
Yeah.
I'll do it though for you.
Yeah, let's do.
For
2
intern
o'clock.
girl.
I can do later. I mean, I don't know.
No,
I prefer 2. We already told him.
Yeah, because I think he's got his plans too.
Yeah.
Gregory Sadio.
Oh, we're going to Blue
like
Lounge.
that? Very good. Yeah.
Well, there was
How's the food there?
It's good.
Yeah?
I like it. Yeah, it's pretty good.
What do they have? They have
There's even have like an outdoor thing. What's the weather gonna be?
Do they have chicharrones?
I think.
I'll go anywhere where they have chicharrones. I'll go anywhere.
If we're there, they might as well buy an ad too.
Right?
They would. If he's
they
there,
should.
the owner. Yeah, Alexis.
You'd be surprised how many Latinos read my paper. I'm surprised when I find out how many Latinos read my paper.
Well, yeah. Of course. All my friends now follow you.
We were at Sevmar
They
one
love
day,
you.
and this elderly Spanish woman, I'm going to assume that she was Dominican, but she might not have been, came over to me when we were leaving, and she said, you're that young Duggan fella. I love it. At 58, she's calling me a young Duggan fella. And I said, yes, but I'm always afraid to say yes because I don't know if they're going to like me or not. And she said, I love your paper. And so when people say that, sometimes they just say it. You always know when they mean it, though, when they cite something that was in the paper. And she said, I read Mr. Polino's column. No, she said Ryan Hamilton's column about financial literacy in the schools. And I've been telling my husband for years that this is what's wrong with the American education system. They don't teach them anything about and she's giving me credit for it. And I'm like, listen, Ryan wrote the story. Ryan's a state rep. I just published the paper. But I was shocked that this elderly Latino woman reads my newspaper that has no Spanish in it. Yeah. So I'm always surprised when Latinos read my paper.
Speaking of the paper, the August.
August edition is out, and boy, what a barn burner!
I can't wait to get it. It's probably across the street, right?
No, he won't. He won't get to North Andover for another couple of days. I'll make sure you get one though. We gotta get one to go tomorrow. I'll bring one for Greg.
Yeah, we gotta get one.
This is probably
and for
one
blue. We'll leave him one too.
Who?
For the blue.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely. This is one of the meatiest papers that I've put out in a long time. My editorial, absolutely scathing.
I can't wait.
You remember the show that we did on Laurie Keegan, the Methuen School Committee person who wants boys to go in girls' bathrooms?
When I came in here, her picture was still here.
I wrote a full-page editorial.
Oh my God.
About her, and detailed what happened.
How did they call
the entire
you?
thing?
Has anyone called?
My phone is not stopped.
Oh, God.
In fact, on my way here, I got 3 calls from people in Methuen who said, I just read your column online. Is that true? Like, because it's so outrageous, people go, there's no way that could be true. I'm like, yeah, it's 100% true. And by the way, she hasn't deleted any of her comments. It's still online. So go to my Facebook page, go to my photo gallery, scroll down till you see her picture, click it, and all those comments are still there. So my comment challenging her when she said, everything you said about me is bullshit. And then I said, okay, so then, then let's go one by one. Do you not believe that boys should be able to go in girls' bathrooms? Crickets. Do you not believe boys should be able to play on girls' sports? Crickets. Do you not believe that 10-year-olds should get puberty blockers behind their parents' backs? That's an easy one. You should just say, no, I don't believe that. Crickets.
Exactly.
So, all right, let's roll up now.
Right,
We're way over. How much time are we at? I hate that we've been going late.
1:45.
Oh, that's not bad, though.
No.
We were 2 last year.
We're always around
We
that
only
time.
pay for an hour, so I feel like we're stealing time away from NCAM. And by the way, if you ever want to do a podcast, this is the place to do it.
Yeah.
And the NCAM studios in downtown North Andover.
Above the
High above the Golden Seal Apothecary.
Apothecary.
You know what they have downstairs? They have really good milkshakes.
Yeah, you were telling me.
Yeah,
that.
they have good milkshakes.
We'll try one day.
I might actually get one on the way over to my office. So, with no Alejandro today? Was Alejandro?
School. Daycare.
School?
Daycare, yeah. Got a field trip and one of the
He's 5 and you sent him to school?
Yeah, daycare. He didn't want to go, trust me.
I wouldn't want to go at 5 either.
I know, but
I didn't want to go.
I started the radio show. So.
Let's thank our sponsor, Century 21 McLennan Real Estate. We're going to run out of milk before I get to the end of this, so just let it loop. Zany Pesci Law Office, the Marston & Son Construction, EIS Investigation and Gun Training, JG's Ice Cream, Clear Path for Veterans New England, Pleasant Valley Landscaping Contractors, Rockland Trust. He says you got to go home, but you can't go home yet. Doug Mercurio, there you go. Prime Insurance, the Doug Mercurio Law Office, W3ON Quality Catering, Terramar, Mexican Grill on South Broadway. We had a great time there with our flash mob lunch. I think we're doing Vaca for the next one. I haven't really decided yet. But everyone tells me that Dominican fusion with sushi, I can't imagine that it's good, but
it is.
But I'm going to try it. And I know that they came in 3rd or 4th for the Taste of Lawrence. So, and Stadium Chiropractic, also a free shout out to my buddy Paul Lambert of Lambert and Randone. They do like family law, wills, trust, all that stuff. And there was another free shout out to somebody.
JG's Ice Cream.
No, we did them. Stadium Chiropractic, Dr. Amano.
Right behind the Taco Bell.
Right behind Taco Bell. So you go get your back adjusted. Well, I go first and then I go after.
Oh.
I do both.
Gross.
So I'm fat. I need more food. I need grocery girl, too. We're out of grocery at the office. Thank you to Jocelyn at 7 Miles for sending me food.
Aww.
When I was on deadline, I had no food in the office, and I complained about it on Facebook, and she called me and said, I'm sending food over. Thank you, Jocelyn. I love you. Melvin Taylor says you got to go home, so go home already.